Hey guys, welcome to the Libero Network. My name is Robin Baker, and it is June, it is summer, and that means travel time. So, for some of us in eating disorder recovery or struggling through recovering through an eating disorder, travel is really one of those really scary things that pop up around this time of year, be it vacation, be it maybe visiting family or going on a road trip with friends. It throws us out of our normal routines. It challenges our ed voice quite a bit because things aren't predictable. And for myself included, and I know other people in eating disorder recovery, predictability is a huge part of eating disorders, right? We like to know when things are happening. We like that sense of predictability. So traveling really throws people out of the loop, and especially with food. So I know for myself when I was really struggling in my eating disorder that there were years, for many years, I didn't travel. I didn't go on vacations. I didn't go anywhere because not only did it take me out of my normal routine, I couldn't get a hold of my safe foods. I couldn't be around food that I was familiar with. I was taken out of my typical workout routine, which was really scary for me. So, being in recovery from an eating disorder and trying to travel is a huge task. Mentally, right? Physically, not so much. Mentally, it's like a war zone. So in today's video, we're really going to be talking about how to eat intuitively on the road or when you're traveling. Maybe you're not taking a road trip. Maybe you're going to a whole new country and you are practicing intuitive eating and you want to be able to continue this practice on your vacation, on your travels. So today I'm going to give you some tips and some things to remember when you're on that vacation or traveling. So one of the first things to remember about intuitive eating on the road is flexibility. Intuitive eating is really all about being flexible and not really having food rules to follow, not having a good or bad food list, even sticking to a quote unquote meal plan, right? That maybe a dietitian has put together for you, especially if you're so far along in your recovery. But if the dietitian does say, you really need to stick to your food plan, that's really important. However, flexibility means also that even if you do have this food plan in place, that if you see something you really want to try, maybe it smells amazing, maybe it looks great, maybe it's just something you've never seen before and you're really curious, you want to try it. If it's in between a snack and a meal and you're like, I'm not really that hungry, but I really want to try this thing. Oh, but it doesn't really fit into my food plan right now because I'm not really at a snack time, I'm not really at a meal time. Then that's not really being flexible, right? You're not letting your intuitive voice kind of guide you. And I guarantee you, your dietitian would probably, if they really follow intuitive eating, they would probably be perfectly fine with you trying that food. So really remembering that flexibility is really the key to intuitive eating, especially when you're in a different environment and you're traveling. So kind of running through some common scenarios that come up when you're traveling. One of them is, if you travel, most of the time you go with someone, you go with either just one person or maybe a group of people or family. But whenever you go with someone else, chances are you're going to you might butt heads about where you're going to eat dinner or where you're going to eat lunch or whatever. And this is really where flexibility comes into play, right? Not every single meal on your vacation is going to be the perfect, ideal meal for you, meaning you're not going to be like extremely happy with every single meal. It's not always going to meet what you're maybe craving intuitively because not everyone agrees on what they want to eat all the time. So my advice for you on this topic is, again, be flexible. Not every meal is going to perfectly suit intuitive eating standards. The best thing I can suggest if you are at a restaurant where you look through the menu and there's just nothing that sounds good, and really be honest here with yourself, because sometimes you might look through the menu and you think to yourself, nothing sounds good, but in reality you're like, well, these foods are too scary to eat. I'm not comfortable with this. I'm too scared about how many, fat grams are in here or how many calories are in this. So really be honest with yourself. Are you really, really being intuitive with your food, or are you just scared because there's nothing that sounds familiar to you and you're just worried about what's in it? So that's something to be aware of. But if you're being honest with yourself and you look through the menu and nothing sounds good, I've been there, I know. One of the best things you can do is maybe suggest that everyone kind of order some type of appetizers so there's things to share. So you're not really kind of tied down to one dish. Or if you want something but you don't want to really commit to it, you might want to share with somebody. That's also another option, and maybe share with 2 different people. That's always an idea too. However, if you leave the restaurant and you're still really hungry and you don't feel satisfied, give yourself permission to get some more food somewhere else after that restaurant trip. And give yourself permission to eat whatever that thing is, even though maybe everyone else is done eating. That's really a tough one because everyone else has finished their meal and you're like, well, I really didn't eat that much. I'm still hungry. Can we stop at whatever and I can pick this up on the way back? Again, being honest with yourself. Is this really because there wasn't anything at the restaurant that sounded good or felt like it would taste good? Or is it because you were scared to eat something different? So keeping that in mind as you travel. So another scenario that might come up is, maybe you're in some amazing restaurant and you've already finished your meal, and you might never get back to this restaurant again because it's on the other side of the world and you never know when you're coming back here. And then you're presented with the dessert menu and you see this dessert and you're like, this sounds incredible. I really want to try this, but I'm not really that hungry, so I probably shouldn't order it. So here's the thing with intuitive eating that some other people in the eating disorder world have really brought up is that don't let intuitive eating become the hunger fullness diet, right? Don't, just because you're not hungry and you're using that to gauge whether you should eat more or less, that's great. But if you really want to try this amazing dessert that you might never have another chance to try again, by all means try it, even if you're not hungry. So really being aware that yes, hunger and fullness is important to honor in intuitive eating. However, it should never dictate if you should or shouldn't eat something, especially when you're on vacation, because that's usually when we're presented with different food options we probably won't have ever again or we're not familiar with in our home setting. So remembering that, yes, it's important to honor your hunger, honor your fullness, but there are times when there is an opportunity to eat more or maybe eat less or whatever, and you're gonna follow that intuitively. Don't forget to follow your intuition on intuitive eating. And then one last scenario that can come up a lot when you travel, and this kind of goes along with the hunger fullness aspect of intuitive eating, is that if you tend to be someone, I know I'm this way, if you tend to be someone that can kind of freak out when they get too hungry, personally for me, because it reminds me of when I was in my eating disorder, always have snacks. So always have something with you so you don't get too hungry and it doesn't, you don't get freaked out by it or you don't get anxiety from it. I also know physically my blood sugar has a tendency to drop. My blood sugar can kind of go all over the place. So it's always a good idea to have something with me. And I try to have a couple different options too. So maybe something sweet and maybe something salty. So really depending on what I'm craving intuitively, I can really honor that and satisfy that with whatever snack I have on hand. So that's it. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you do happen to travel this summer and you're in recovery from an eating disorder or you're struggling through an eating disorder and you are, in the place where you're practicing intuitive eating, I would love to hear questions below about how to handle intuitive eating on vacation on the road. So in the section below, please feel free to ask any questions that you might have about this topic. It is a big topic, and I know a lot of people struggle with traveling when they are in eating disorder recovery. So please ask away. I would love to answer any questions you have about this. And thanks again for joining me, and I will catch you next time. Bye.